start of the time trial, expecting to be good. He set off, and in a tailwind, he reached speeds of 85 kilometers an hour. As the race reached its end, the mighty Spaniard had caught and passed the top Frenchman, Laurent Fignon. He'd taken 6 minutes out of him. And as Indurain crossed the line, the time trial had again produced an exceptional champion. Hello and welcome to Luxembourg this morning, where the weather is overcast and I'm afraid very windy, and it really isn't quite the weather we experience normally on the Tour de France. But you know, I don't suspect that Miguel Indurain is complaining about that this morning. Well, everybody felt Indurain would win the time trial stage yesterday, but nobody could believe by what margins he would win when he came home. Let's look at the damage he caused amongst the other favourites of this year's Tour. Indurain yesterday, 3 minutes 41 seconds better than Gianni Bugno, the world champion. Greg LeMond, who finished second and lost only 8 seconds in a similar time trial last year to Indurain, yesterday lost 4 minutes and 4 seconds. Pascal Lino, the race leader, conceded 4 minutes 6. And Stephen Roche, he finished 7th, losing 4 minutes 10. Claudio Chiappucci was matching Indurain early on and then hit the wall, losing 5 minutes and 26 seconds. Eric Breukink, 6 minutes 15. Franco Chioccioli, 7:41, and the American Andy Hampsten, 8 minutes 29 seconds. Even Indurain had not expected to make such time gains.
No, I did not think there would be such a difference, because Bugno has been riding well. But in this kind of race, if you don't start in a good rhythm, the difference increases second by second. I don't know what happened to Bugno, but the difference is now big. I think it was necessary today to make a point, because of the coming mountain stages. It is true that in the earlier days we were not dominant, perhaps because of the very winding roads, or because of the rain, but we were not at the head of the race, we were in the peloton. Today we pull back time, and that is the most important thing before the mountains.
Time gains indeed, and at the finish, you know, Laurent Fignon told the French press he simply didn't believe it when he saw the great Spanish rider come alongside him. He'd been caught for 6 minutes. Indurain is not in the leader's yellow jersey yet, that's still with Pascal Lino, but we do expect in the next couple of days it will change shoulders. Last night, the Irishman Stephen Roche explained to us exactly what is necessary now to keep this race alive.
Everybody has to forget about the second place and ride for the first place. But if Bugno, Chiappucci and LeMond are riding for the second place, then, or the third place, like Indurain will be taken to the finish in an armchair. So they'll have to forget about being second or third and just ride and attack Indurain and leave Indurain to the chasing.
Well, a champion's attitude there from Stephen Roche, and indeed that is the positive attitude the top contenders now must really have in this Tour de France. This is the situation overall. Pascal Lino, 1 minute 27 seconds. That's all now ahead of Miguel Indurain. Skibby rode well yesterday to keep up there in third place. Stephen Roche is fourth and Greg LeMond is fifth, but the time gaps are there for you to see. Further down, Gianni Bugno is 6th, 4 minutes 39 seconds back. Claudio Chiappucci is 8th. Eric Breukink really died yesterday, 8:38 back now, 17th. Chioccioli 21st, and Andy Hampsten is in 26th position. The rollout this morning on Bastille Day as they leave towards France, and I wonder if we'll have a French stage winner today, or indeed if Pascal Lino will keep that yellow jersey for what is for him a very special day. This is the route they face as they head out of Luxembourg, very briefly into Germany for precisely 1 kilometre before they go on towards Strasbourg. Last day of the bonus sprints and 4 fourth category climbs on the route. Miguel Indurain today feeling very satisfied with his short day yesterday in the Tour de France. He did more damage yesterday than anybody has done all week. The first sprint and a battle coming here from the champion of Belgium, Johan Museeuw, and beating, in fact, the green jersey, Jalabert, into third place, and Kasputis is the rider finishing second. And so the countryside changing all of the time as the race moves closer and closer into France. And then 3 quick climbs coming. The Côte de Montenarc. Claudio Chiappucci snatching points here and putting him virtual leader in the King of the Mountains as he beats Richard Virenque into first place. Fabien Jecker was third. Then at 72 kilometres on the Côte de Buchwald, Dominique Arnoux, the winner in San Sebastian, was over the top just ahead of Chiappucci, and Virenque again losing out into third place. There was a crash at 80 kilometres, some 15 riders going down, the most noted being Gilbert Duclos-Lasalle. He's got back into the field now, but he wasn't on when the race came up to the Côte de Valmont at 90 kilometres covered. Claudio Chiappucci now confirming the new leadership for him when he gets to the finish in the King of the Mountains, finishing ahead of Ruiz Cabestany and Merguialdi, the winner of the stage into Pau. Well, that was the situation after 90 kilometres. The race speed is averaging around about 37 kilometres today. And now we can go down to the action, and this breakaway, which was originally of 9 riders, it's only been on the road clear of the field for the last 5 or 6 kilometres, and coming up to it just a moment or so ago, Stephen Roche and Gianni Bugno. So the big boys are attacking Indurain.
Well, they're going to do that every day for the next 2 weeks, because the team, as we can see at the moment, of Miguel Indurain are going to have to try and protect his position. He's not in the overall leader's position at the moment, but they'll have to act as if he is, and they'll have to defend him for the next 2 weeks, which is why riders like Roche and Bugno will attack. And at the moment, this is a very dangerous move. Stephen Roche at the front there setting the tempo. This group of now 11 riders is 1 minute clear with 60 kilometres to go.
And they're working well together. In fact, as soon as Perini, the teammate of Stephen Roche, saw he was coming up to this group, he fell back off the tail of the breakaway and brought him back on, bringing with him too another strong man in Bugno. And the Banesto team, the last glimpse we had of them, were all on the front of the bunch, so there is cause for concern at the moment for Miguel Indurain.
And cause for concern, I don't know if you could see just at the back of the group there, one of the Banesto riders who's in this group at the moment, Jose Uriarte, was trying to get some information from the race director's car. He may well wait a little while for his team manager to come forward, and may even have to drop back if there's a situation of panic. But he's obviously going to take a back seat at the moment and see how the situation develops.
Just to give you some more names in this leading group, Edric van Hooijdonk, the tall Belgian, is up here. Valerie Tebaldi from Gatorade, a teammate of Bugno. Espinosa is here. Maurizio Fondries from Panasonic. Jos van Aert from PDM. Marc Madio is here for the Telecom team. And Jose Uriarte, Paul has mentioned, for Banesto. He won't do any work at all. He'll sit near the back of the field. And Frankie Andreu from Motorola. But one or two of the big boys had other problems today. Stephen Bauer has been in all sorts of trouble off the back of the field. He's just got back into the race after a long chase. I think he might have been delayed by the crash. But also Roche is punctured today. He's in this breakaway now, and so too is Chiappucci, who's back in the main field.
I think we may find that Espinosa is no longer in this group. He was sighted there to begin with, but I haven't spotted him for the last 3 or 4 kilometres, so maybe he's disappeared under the pressure of the action.
So an interesting combination here. We have the domestics to help us, if you like, the great adventurers looking for a stage win, but we have 2 riders in this breakaway now looking to make up lost time on the route of the Tour de France today. Stephen Roche, as you have heard, is determined not to give Miguel Indurain an armchair ride to the finish in Paris, and it does look as though Bugno is thinking the same, although in this morning's papers here in France he was quoted as saying that man Indurain is on another planet and I'm racing for second place. Well, let's hope he doesn't believe that, because he's come out front today to try and get back some lost time.
He's based his whole season on this event, so he can't take a back seat and just be happy to take second place. So I think Bugno's got the character to attack whenever he can, and it's going to put Indurain under a lot of pressure. Indurain's got a good team, but we'll have to see how they can hold out to this kind of attacking every day for the next 2 weeks, because I'm sure that's what the other contenders are going to do.
Well, that's Fondries slipping down the line at the moment in the red jersey. Edwin van Hooijdonk up there. Now Frankie Andreu being followed by Marc Madio. There's the time check. 1 minute 5 seconds, it says on the board. So 65 seconds. This Tour de France started quickly today. It had a dip in the middle, but they're going well again now, and 2 of the stars won't lie down, at least so far, on the road to Strasbourg. We'll take a break.
One of the most welcome sights of this tour so far has been Stephen Roche's name among the leaders. He's had a miserable time of things this past couple of years, what with injuries and team changes. And even though he's not really fit even now, he is back in contention. And his return to form has coincided with his return to Carrera, the team where he had his greatest success.
Stephen Roche is not just a hero in his native city, his native country. His fame is now worldwide.
Stephen Roche's fall from grace was as sudden as any in sport. In 1987, he won the Giro, the Tour and the World Championships. But the next 4 seasons were spent as much at home as on the road, as knee injuries destroyed his form and almost his career. Now that the sports pages are finally worth reading again, Roche is determined to savour any success that comes his way this time.
Definitely, like the first time round, you were kind of always wishing for tomorrow, hoping, waiting for something else to come along, and before I knew where I was on an operating table and no more good condition, no more good form and no more winning, and kind of everything was all gone. So this time round, like, even though I haven't got my best form yet, I'm appreciating it.
The jerseys from Roche's amazing triple still have pride at place at Carrera HQ in Milan, which is more than could be said for the man himself. Claudio Chiappucci, a domestique for Roche back in 1987, is now the team leader, although not a very organised one, as Roche has been hired for his brains as much as his legs.
The main reason they brought me back into the team was to help in the team time trial, which is we finished second the other day with their best results since I left them 5 years ago. And we've also won the team prize 3 days in a row. So I think so far it's working out very well for us.
And things are working out well individually too. Yesterday's time trial ride puts Stephen into 4th place, 40 seconds ahead of Chiappucci, although he's anxious to scotch any leadership debate.
Chiappucci still stays the leader because he's sure value in the mountains. So like he's the one that's going to go well in the mountains, so he has to be the one that's looked after. So me, I don't know how I'm going to go in the mountains. Hopefully I'll go as well as him, but for the moment we don't know yet.
Well, the one thing that could really hamper Stephen Roche in the mountains is the severe back pain he's riding with. He has 2 troublesome discs, which he reckons cost him 1.5 minutes in yesterday's time trial. It'd be a terrible pity if they were also to cost him his Tour de France just when the legs are finally healthy. Let's hope not, because it's good to see him going well again.
Well, thanks, Gary, and indeed Roche is going very well today, but I'm afraid I have to tell you now that he's been caught in this leading group. The group is actually still away, but Bunyo and Roche were forced to drop back when the bunch came within 15 seconds, but the breakaway has established a gain without those 2 now in it, and it might well go clear. Let's have a look at the stats today. 179 starters this morning in Luxembourg, and only 1 retirement that we know of, and that was Nelson of the Panasonic. He was involved in that crash a little bit earlier on. The speed not quite so hot in this 3rd hour racing, 37.533 kilometers an hour, but the average tour speed still on a record course here. It's even quicker now after Indurain's victory yesterday, 42.448 kilometers an hour.
They're all working very well together at the moment, but it's going to be a real cat and mouse. You can just see a little bit further down the road there, I could see the helicopter, which means that the main field are really not very far behind at all. Maybe still around about 20-25 seconds. When the main field goes through that sprint point, we should be able to get a time check from the radio.
Now, I noticed on one of the questions we had today that one of our viewers from Ireland said that a great fan is Sean Kelly, but he doesn't seem to be doing very much in this year's Tour de France. Is he trying? Well, I can assure you he's very much trying in his Tour de France, and in fact Kelly is riding with a great deal of intelligence. He knows he can't win all of the stages, and he's not wasting his energy. But I do feel that Kelly is poised to give us a result in this year's Tour de France on one of these stages. He's looking very sharp indeed, and he's waiting for the day. That's my feeling, and I think we'll hear something of Sean Kelly before we get to Paris. Indeed, it may even be on the Champs-Élysées. Lovely crowds on the roadside welcoming the Tour de France back into France on the Bastille Day. And still the breakaway, although it's looking a little bit ragged now, as Perini is being left to do the majority of the work along with Rolf Yerman. And that is a sure sign. Perini now wanting more people to come and help him. And I'm afraid they all are of the opinion that this is not going to work. And they're caught between 2 stools now. They don't know whether to give it their all or save a little bit for the run into the finish.
It's getting very close now. It's down to 12 seconds. That's not much more than 200 yards. So we're going to get caught in very, very short distance now. There's the confirmation, 12 seconds between the group of 9 and the chasing main field.
Andreu goes through, swings off, followed by Van Hooijdonk, Uriarte. So we're in the streets almost now of the suburbs of Strasbourg.
But just before it comes back together here, you've got to watch out to make sure one of these riders doesn't try the page out of the handbook is to, as soon as you are about to get caught, try to counter, and that can catch your opponents by surprise. I saw Edward Van Hooijdonk just having a check there to see what the other riders were doing. They're not very far behind is the main field.
The arrowhead formed at the front, and right on the tip, these riders from the Spanish Once team. And there are 2 Australians on the squad, 2 from France, 1 from Denmark, 1 from Switzerland, and the rest from Spain. It is a multinational team, this one. And they're all striving now for their man in green, Laurent Jalabert, the winner of the stage into Brussels in the rain. Who they're trying to bring back into the race now so he can win again here on Bastille Day for France. The junction not too far away, as those 9 riders are now well within the sight of the boys in pink. But there we are. This is what happened when they almost caught up last time. Fondriest went away again, and now he's going to try it once more. This great Italian rider is now trying to go clear on his own.
Well, that was the move I was waiting for, and he came straight out of the handbook. Edward Van Hooijdonk behind was waiting for it too, and he's trying to close the gap down. He hasn't got very much, it's only about 50 metres. All he needs is for one of the riders behind to crack, and they have done there. They've sat up now. Fondriest can maybe get the gap that he needs.
So Maurizio Fondriest, the World Cup holder, is now trying to break clear of the field. He's just being held, though, as the whole mass of riders are latching on to the back of this breakaway group. And that's thanks to the Spanish Once team, but they'll all say thanks very much, because now they'll send their other sprinters up to the front, and not least the Lotto rider Johan Museo will be taking part. As we drove into the finish today, both Paul and I remarked at the difficult approach to the finish, about 2 kilometres out. There is a small stretch of cobblestones, some very sharp left and right turns, and I said to Paul that this is the finish for a Belgian rider today, and Museo will be very happy with that when he sees it.
Well, that's the end of it for the what remains of the nine riders in the lead there. The Once team have caught them, but they may not know that Fondriest has escaped, so they've got to try and keep the speed up, try and find out that there's somebody in front and keep up the speed. But one man is sitting down there nice and gently in the wheel of the green jersey, and that's Johan Museo, the champion of Belgium. He wants to spoil the chances of the Frenchman for today.
Well, hats off to the Once boys. They've done a terrific job. They've got their man in green to the front, only one man away. And now look at the way they're packing on the right-hand side as the Once riders are washed towards the back of the field. Their job is done for the day. So too is that of Marc Madio here. He's thrown away now, exhausted. Rolf Jerman has gone. 1 or 2 of the Once riders have survived at the front, including Neil Stevens there in 4th place. But other riders now taking an interest as they go out to hunt down the last survivor of this breakaway that established today at 140 kilometres into the race. And as we come down to the last handful of kilometres, they're about to pick up the last survivor, and he surrenders, Maurizio Fondriest. So we are going to be treated, I think, Paul, to our first mass sprint of the Tour.
That would look as if it's going to be, but don't forget, as we come into the streets of Strasbourg, there are 1 or 2 little corners, 3 kilometres to go. The big man at the front there is Guido Bontempi, so I would think that Abdou Japarov is not very far away. So it's Johan Museo, and of course the green jersey, which is on the shoulders of Laurent Jalabert. I think we're going to have an incredible bunch sprint tonight there. Watch out there for Gianni Bugna, who's moving up. There is the jersey of the national champion of Belgium, right behind the green jersey. The white jersey in front of him. Another former sprinter, Eric van der Aarden.
So Laurent Jalabert, 4th in line in green, and the champion of Belgium just behind him with the black top to his jersey is Johan Museo. He's picked his man he wants, because he knows he only has to finish alongside Jalabert today, and he will come out with the green jersey tonight, which means that France will have lost the lead in 2 competitions today. There's no doubt now that Pascal Lino will survive in the yellow. Indurain hasn't attacked him all day, and Lino hasn't attacked either. The field now winding itself into Strasbourg for the 21st time in the history of the Tour de France. It's worth remembering too that in 1967, Michael Wright of Britain was the stage winner here. But now they're thinking more of a win for Belgium as they come round that very sharp left-hand bend there. Museo lost a couple of places and also the wheel of the green jersey, but he'll get back into his rhythm very quickly. Van der Aarden has moved up too, a few more places, so there could be another challenge coming from there. And there he goes now, Museo on the far right of our picture, looking for that green jersey again, seeking it out as he comes into the last 2 kilometres.
Well, the PDM have come to the front too, so they may be thinking about trying to get Van Poppel. In the second place is Alex Zula, the man who was the yellow jersey not very long ago in San Sebastian. Neil Stevens is still to the front. They're all fighting position. The last 2 or 3 corners we go round. Everybody wants the wheel. There you can see the black and yellow jersey of the Belgian champion. In 4th place is Laurent Jalabert. They're taking the speed up as we come to the final kilometre.
Well, this looks like the Once boys are going to finish off with the long lead out. That was Neil Stevens checking over his shoulder to make sure the green was in the right position. He's in the perfect position in 3rd place, but he won't be happy to know that Johan Museo is sitting right on his back wheel now as the riders come through on the other side, and we expect to see Panasonics make a run for the finish too. That looks like Olaf Ludwig is going to try and go for it as well. Stevens now has been washed away as the Van Poppel comes up into this very sharp left-hand turn into the Avenue of the Peace. Has now Jalabert still, he's got the wheel of Museo now, about 4 men back. Ludwig is up there in 2nd place. Yatushev Yekimov is leading them out now. Ludwig going on the left. Now the green goes to Baronk on the right. Of Jalabert rather. Jalabert and Ludwig taking them on. And Abdul Jafarov is coming too. The first we've seen of him. Abdul Jafarov with his head down. And Van Poppel, Abdul Jafarov and Jalabert. Van Poppel claims it on the line. What a sprint that was. Abdul Jafarov has waited for this day. We haven't seen him since Paris a year ago. He's been beaten by the width of his tyre on the line. And Jean-Paul Van Poppel, I think, and it's gone to the photograph, may well have snatched it on the line. Jalabert was 2nd or 3rd. And the question was where was Johan Museo? Let's have a look at that. A superb sprint again. Abdul Jafarov in the centre, Jalabert on the top right, but look at the speed approaching now of Van Poppel. Museo going over the top of Olaf Ludwig, and Van Poppel going clear of Abdul Jafarov, no doubt about it. Abdul Jafarov is 2nd, Jalabert and Museo are the 2 that will go to the photograph for confirmation. So at last in the Tour de France, the Greyhounds had their say. A win for the sprinter Jean-Paul Van Poppel of Holland ahead of Jamaleddin Abdul Jafarov. Laurent Jalabert finishing 3rd, but that wasn't enough for him to keep the lead in the green jersey competition. Instead, the jersey has now gone across to Johan Museo, who finished 4th. So Jean-Paul Van Poppel, 2 stage wins in this year's Tour of Spain, now has his first in this year's Tour de France. For the first time since this tour left Spain, we can reveal no changes overall today. All of the leaders still those same time differences as it was at the start this morning. Well, let me remind you now about our second competition in this year's Tour de France. We're going to ask you to pick the stage winner of the big classic stage on Sunday on the road to Alpe d'Huez. Look at the profile while I explain the rules, because as you see here, it's a mountainous day, and rest assured that the big names will be there on the finishing line. Over the years gone by, it's proved a haven of success for Dutch cyclists. It's also these last 2 years proved the victory line for Gianni Bugno, who in this tour is the reigning world champion. You can enter on a postcard, please, your entries to reach us by Saturday to this address: Fortel Tour de France Competition, 142 Lower Marsh, London, SE1 7AE. This week you can also telephone your selection to this number, 0891 500 112. And full details of the competition you can also find on Fortel on page 467. So today the sprinters came together and gave us a great thrill down the Avenue of Peace. But there wasn't much peace for the top men in the Tour de France again today, as they did attack the leader, but the leader responded well. The Tour stays in France now for a few days, and they go on tomorrow to Mulhouse. We'll be with them, and see you then. Goodbye.